By the late 1980s, Indian cricket was living in the shadow of Sunil Gavaskar's retirement. The man who stood tall against the world's fastest bowlers was gone, and India was desperate for someone to fill his shoes. Every new batsman was unfairly measured against Gavaskar's mountain of runs. And then, from Bombay school cricket scene came whispers of a boy who wasn't just good, he was rewriting every record in sight. As a kid, Sachin was scoring centuries like people collect Pokemon cards, one after another, and never satisfied with just one. If 100 was on the plate, he'd want a double. If a double, then why not a triple? By the time he was 15, he had smashed a Ranji Trophy 100 on debut, and another in the Irani Trophy. So when he made his test debut against Pakistan in 1989 at just 16, the hype was insane. After all, Mushtaq Mohammad's record as the youngest test centurion looked very much within reach. But cricket, as it so often does, reminded everyone that talent alone isn't enough. Sachin looked promising, played with courage, even made 2 half-centuries against Pakistan's fearsome pace attack. But the big landmark, the 100, refused to come. In New Zealand, he got close with 88, but again fell short. 7 tests in, and still no century. For a teenager carrying a nation's hopes, doubts began to creep in. People wondered, is he too flashy? Is he really cut out for the highest level? And now, he was in England. The toughest exam paper a batsman could ever face. Now remember, this was 1990. No video analysis, no endless data. England barely knew this kid. Robin Smith later admitted, when he came out to bat in the first test, we all said, who is this little toothpick? And let's be fair, Sachin did look like a schoolboy. He was still carrying his textbooks to prepare for his 10th grade exams. Imagine that. You are facing Devon Malcolm steaming in at 150 kmph. But in the evening, you are revising algebra. And speaking of Malcolm, the England attack was no joke. Angus Fraser with his bounce, Eddie Hemmings with his crafty spin, and Malcolm with his terrifying pace. This wasn't school cricket. This was the ultimate test. At the home of cricket lords, Sachin got starts. 10 in the first innings, 22nd in the second, but couldn't convert. He looked good, then threw it away, and India lost the test by a crushing 247 runs. By the time they reached Old Trafford for the second test, the pressure was immense. England piled on 519 in their first innings, with Gooch and Atherton both making centuries. India's reply was strong, but it wasn't Sachin who led it. It was Mohammad Azharuddin, the captain, playing one of his finest knocks. And young Sachin, he made a slow but steady 68. Not flashy, not headline grabbing, but crucial in helping India avoid the follow-on. It showed he could stay at the crease, but still, no 100. England then declared their second innings, setting India a target of 408. Impossible really. The real job was to survive nearly 90 overs for a draw. But by the 5th day, the pitch was worsening and India were in deep trouble. The top order collapsed, and when Kapil Dev fell with the score at 183 for 6, it looked like it was all over. India was staring at 2-0 down in the series. And then, out walked Sachin. Here was a 17-year-old walking in with the weight of 1 billion fans on his shoulders. For most teenagers, pressure means passing exams or asking someone out. For Sachin, pressure meant standing between India and defeat. But unlike in the first innings, he didn't go into a shell. He attacked Hemmings, forcing the spinner off his rhythm. He punched drive through the infield, exploiting Gooch's aggressive fields. His short height became an advantage. Just like Gavaskar, he judged length brilliantly, forcing bowlers to adjust and then punishing them. The more England tried, the calmer he seemed. He wasn't slogging, he wasn't panicking, he was building. And alongside him was Manoj Prabhakar. Now, Prabhakar was the senior man, but the funny part, Sachin was the one giving him advice. Prabhakar later said, "It was Sachin telling me what to do, not the other way around." Imagine that, a teenager coaching his senior partner in the middle of a crisis. Those who watched that day saw glimpses of the Tendulkar that the world would later worship. The cover drives on the up, the back foot punches rising on his toes, the flicks of his pads, all played with authority and control. There was no wild swing, No schoolboy recklessness, just pure, measured brilliance. The English bowlers tried everything. Malcolm's pace, Fraser's bounce, Hemming's spin, but nothing worked. He was only 17, but he was already dictating terms to international bowlers. The English press, who had barely heard of him a month ago, were forced to sit up. The crowd, initially expecting a quick collapse, started to murmur in awe. Was this really a teenager? Or was it some old professional in disguise? As time ticked away, every run brought tension. Could India save the test? Could this boy actually get 100? And then, 40 minutes before stumps, Sachin punched Fraser past mid-off for 3 runs, and the scoreboard flashed. 101. Sachin Tendulkar, aged 17 years and 112 days, had done it. The youngest Indian to score a test century and the second youngest in world cricket. He later admitted he was embarrassed raising his bat to acknowledge the crowd, but the stadium knew it had witnessed something historic. On the balcony, Sunil Gavaskar, the man whose shoes Sachin was expected to fill, had rushed from the commentary box to applaud. Sachin and Prabhakar put on a match-saving 160-run stand. India finished on 343 for 6, the game drawn. Tendulkar had faced 189 balls, batted for nearly 4 hours, and struck 17 boundaries. But more importantly, he had saved India from defeat. But what stood out that day wasn't just the strokes, it was the steel behind them. Sachin had this rare ability to block out everything. The scoreboard, the crowd, the sledging from the slips. Even when India's position looked hopeless, he didn't panic. He broke the innings into tiny batters. Just survive the next over, just play out this spell. That mental discipline allowed him to play like a veteran, not a teenager making his 9th test appearance. The dressing room was ecstatic. Anil Kumble later recalled how the players stood frozen on the balcony out of superstition, unwilling to move while Sachin and Prabhakar batted. England's captain Graham Gooch was generous in his praise. Tendulkar played an excellent innings. He's a superb player for his age, just like an old pro. It was also Sachin's first ever Man of the Match award in tests. For someone who still looked like a schoolboy, it was the ultimate validation. India would go on to lose the series 1-0, but that maiden 100 in Manchester changed everything. It would take him another 18 months to get his second test 100. But after that, the floodgates opened. From this maiden 100 in Manchester to his 100 international turn in 2012, the journey of Sachin Tendulkar, the legend, began here. That day, the world didn't just see a boy score 100, they saw the birth of an icon. And from that moment on, whenever Sachin walked to the crease, a billion hopes walked with him. The ball wonder had arrived, and cricket would never be the same again. So guys, that's it for today's video. If you want to see how one decision completely changed Sachin's career, or how Sourav Ganguly scripted the greatest comeback in cricket history, click on the videos being displayed on your screen.